What is going on, guys? I am back with another review of a day at an amusement park, and today I will be discussing this Memorial Day weekend visit I had to Knoebels on Saturday, May 24th, and it was, as always, a great day at Knoebels. Every visit to Knoebels keeps getting better and better, I swear. And yeah, so with that being said, let's just dive into this review of the day. So when I first got to Knoebels, I redeemed my voucher for a wristband. Yep, and yeah, and then I got my wristband, and then after that, I rope dropped flying turns like usual, and then after my first ride, the day on flying turns, I got a ride in on Phoenix. I think I might have gotten a re-ride on it if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I might have gotten a re-ride on Phoenix at that point, and so yeah, so after those two rides on Phoenix, I got two rides on Downdraft, and then I mean, wait, did I do Rocketplane first or Downdraft? Either way, after those two rides on Phoenix, I did Rocketplane and Downdraft, and the Downdraft I did twice, and Rocketplane I did once. And so after that, I headed to Stratosphere for a ride on that, and shout out Laura again. And so anyways, after Stratosphere, I headed to Twister at that point, I think it was. And then I think after Twister, I think that might have been when I headed over to Flyer at that point. And then after Cosmotron, I rode Flyer, I think it was. I mean, no. After Flyer, I rode Cosmotron, is what I meant to say. Sorry, bear with me. I did a lot today. I did a lot that day, so I'm trying to remember everything. So after I after I rode Cosmotron, that's when I rode a Paratrooper, and then after Paratrooper, I rode Grand Carousel, and then after Grand Carousel, I forgot to mention this in the vlog, but I got a ride on Italian Trapeze, and then and I always love getting rides in on Italian Trapeze, and then after Italian Trapeze, I headed to Impulse, and then after Impulse, I headed to Pioneer Train, and then after Pioneer Train, I had, I think, two more rides on Twister, if I'm not mistaken. And then after those two rides on Twister, I did Stratosphere two more times. And then after Stratosphere, I did Tornado, which I unfortunately was barely able to get spins on it. And yeah, so after Tornado, I rode Downdraft again, and then after Downdraft, I headed for a re-ride on Rocketplane, and then after Rocketplane, I got a re-ride on Phoenix, and then after Phoenix, I got two rides in on Giant Flume. Shout out William at Giant Flume, by the way. And yeah, so after Giant Flume, I headed for two more rides on Paratrooper, and after that, I got a ride in on Rotojets, and then after Rotojets, I got a ride in on Cosmotron, and then after Cosmotron, I headed to Stratosphere, and then after Stratosphere, I headed over to Twister. Shout out Julia at Twister today, by the way. And then after Twister, I headed to Italian Trapeze for a re-ride, and then after Italian Trapeze, I did Satellite, and then after Satellite, it was my first time back on motorboats since I was a little kid. I headed for, so so it brought back so many memories from when I was a kid riding motorboats, and yeah, and you can get really good views from Knoebels' motorboats. You even go underneath their kiddie coaster, Cosmos Curves, which is really cool. And then after after motorboats, that's when I rode scooters, and then after scooters, I headed over to Grand Carousel for a re-ride on that. And then after Grand Carousel, I headed to, I think, Paratrooper for my 4th ride of the day on it. This was the most rides I've had on Paratrooper in one day. And after Paratrooper, that's when I ate at pizza for dinner. And speaking of food, I forgot to mention this, but after one of my rides on Paratrooper earlier on, I ate at the Round Stand for lunch, and I got a cheesesteak there, and it was really good. I remember raving about that cheesesteak when I first went back to Knoebels in 2020, and I got it again today for lunch. But let's get back on track here. So for dinner, I ate at pizza. I got 2 slices, and then after pizza, I think that's when I headed to Black Diamond. And the cool thing is, I actually got a Zen ride on Black Diamond, which was like really cool. And yeah, it's always good getting on Black Diamond. It's such a cool indoor coaster. And after Black Diamond, I headed to Phoenix, and then after Phoenix, I got 3 more rides and on Downdraft. Shout out Lily at Downdraft, by the way. And then after Downdraft, after those 3 rides on Downdraft, I headed for 2 more rides on Stratosphere, and it's always good getting evening rides on Stratosphere. And then after those evening rides on Stratosphere, I got like quite a few night rides on Twister. Again, shout out Julia at Twister. And yeah, so after those night rides on Twister, that pretty much concluded my Memorial Day weekend visit to my favorite Pennsylvanian amusement park, Knoebels Amusement Resort. So in conclusion, the day I had at Knoebels was awesome, and I keep saying these Knoebels visits keep getting better and better, because I was able to even able to do more on this visit than last visit, and I feel like each visit I keep getting to do more and more, and that just shows you. Another thing I love about Knoebels is that the ride ops are like extremely quick compared to other parks. So props to the ride ops for that, and thank you to the ride ops that recognized me today and that recognized me on this visit. And as always, a shout out goes to the Knoebels staff for an awesome day I had at my favorite Pennsylvanian amusement park. Many more visits to come, and many more visits to come this season. And yeah, so that concludes my that, and it was and before I conclude this, I would like to mention how it was raining like on and off throughout the day, but that didn't stop me from enjoying my favorite Pennsylvanian amusement park, Knoebels Amusement Resort, today, for my 4th visit of the season. And like I said, there's many more to come, and so make sure you stay tuned. And yeah, so with that being said, that basically concludes this review of the day at Knoebels Amusement Resort. Make sure to reply to me your thoughts on this video, and make sure to stay tuned for more coming soon to Coaster Plus Music 19, especially from my favorite Pennsylvanian amusement park, Knoebels. And make sure to reply to me, and make sure to go check out my merch store on Bonfire. I'll have a link in the description. I sell t-shirts, face masks, all the things. So make sure to go check it out. I'll have a link in the description. And make sure to subscribe if you're new, and turn on post notifications so you will not miss when I upload a new video. And I will see you in the next.